Welcome back to the GPS BudCast. I'm Corey,
And I'm Millie.
and we're GPS facilitators. And today we are going to talk about Unit 3, Performance Management. Millie, is performance management your favorite part of managing people?
You know, I think in my head sometimes it seems pretty simple, but in reality, when you're face to face with people that you interact with on a daily basis and you don't want to disappoint anyone or make them feel put upon, it gets tough. So it's not for the faint of heart, for sure. But when done right, you can really help somebody achieve and grow and feel good about the work they do. So it's important.
I think it's pretty common that people get really stressed out about performance management from the manager side and from the employee side. And one thing I think that's a really great takeaway from GPS is that it can be done simply, but it does require a certain amount of rigor from the manager. Um, there's only four areas to think about in performance management. And it sounds simple, but of course it's very complicated. Number one, structuring expectations. Number two, set clear goals. Number three, coach performance. And number four, manage results. Millie, what do you think the most difficult part is of these four?
I mean, I think each of them can be difficult depending on your own personal strengths and comfort levels with different things. I think sometimes we minimize the importance of where you begin with this is structuring expectations and setting clear goals. I think, you can even think about your own work and how you're managed and ask yourself, do I know what's expected of me? And if you have questions about that, thinking about your team and can you ask each member of your team and get a clear answer that would align with your thoughts about what is actually expected of them. And if people aren't really focused on a common vision and you're all working together, but everyone has like a different area where they're really passionate or focused, you're just not going to get across that finish line. So those two areas I think are so important to invest the time and thought into and have conversations. I think one of the things that this unit talks a little bit about is getting the buy-in and the input from folks and helping them see the why. Because if you're just delegated a task and you don't understand why it's so important, you're going to be less likely to find the energy and passion to do the work that gets that thing to be accomplished. So I think explaining the why in that structuring expectations aspect of performance management is super important.
It's not only the mission why, but often it is the obligation of some of our funding. So often it's our programmatic goals, our funding
Right.
goals, and they go hand in hand. That's the stuff that just doesn't feel as good why, but it's just as
Yeah.
important for what we do.
I think that's so true. And truthfully, I think a lot of us among the staff that we have at Best Buddies, you're sort of either a development person or a programs person. And for those that consider themselves or identify as a programs person, the fundraising part can be icky. And you really have to dig deep to make the connection for yourself, to be able to go out in your community and ask people to sign up for the walk and ask them to raise their $50 for the t-shirt. It sometimes just feels so uncomfortable. But that's when you have that conversation with your team and yourself and make sure you're bought in so that you understand that when we raise funds through our friendship walk and our champion gala or any other method you're using, that there is a very clear connection to the end result and the end user and the benefit and impact that you're making with those funds, because nothing we do can be accomplished if we don't have the dedicated staff that are making that public awareness happen. They're making those relationships happen. That is how people identify Best Buddies. We're in the business of people and connecting people, but we have to have the people power to do it. So making sure people can feel comfortable with the language and understand the why and able to articulate the why is essential to our success in so many ways.
Yeah, agreed. So, structuring expectations, sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's easy. I know that for those who manage development, it can appear easy. The expectation, kind of is obvious. But if you are managing people in the friendship program, I know that those standards of excellence also have the expectations written into it. One activity we did in GPS was talking through goals and talking through whether you understood the goal and if your partner who you were sharing them with or your table understood the goal. And I think that's a good activity to do with staff when you're setting goals with them.
We love a good SWOT analysis, and I made a document for my team that kind of goes along with our performance reviews. That's a SWOT worksheet that helps them gather their thoughts and really think about the areas of opportunity or things that they want to improve it, and acknowledging and celebrating the things that they're doing really well. But I think too, going back to what you were saying about the goal is the what, and I think the expectations leans into a little bit more of like the quality of it, because we could say, yes, we open chapters. You could go on Salesforce and open schools up and there could be nothing happening in reality on the other end of that. But really laying out the quality of services and support and stewardship that we want to show, that creates the culture of Best Buddies and helps people who are within our programs, no matter what level of program they're in, feel like they enjoyed their experience, they got a lot out of it, and they spread the word to others. That helps us grow. So I think that's a good conversation to have when you're setting goals with everyone, not just say this number of schools or this number of placements or this fundraising goal, but what really do we want that to look like and feel like for people too?
In this unit, you'll remember there are guidelines for those conversations. And I remember that, everybody, when we say we're going to practice having these conversations, you hear like, but when everyone came back, they said, wow, that was really helpful having that conversation and having those guidelines for those conversations. So, once you have structured your expectations and clarified your goals, make sure that you're looking at that list of things, explaining the goals, asking for input, identifying resources, setting standards, summarizing the conversation, and providing confidence for the employee. Remember that these are just guidelines and that you want to make sure that you're providing really meaningful and clear conversations so that they don't walk away thinking you said one thing and they go do another.
Yeah.
Tracking people's progress is essential. We talk a lot about how if people are just getting tracking their progress once a year or twice a year, that's not really that helpful. I mean, you really need to track people and coach their performance more often.
Discover that early enough that if it's not going in the right direction, you can recalculate and GPS your way back onto the right track. I know when you have something like a grant deliverable and there might be a quarterly report for it, that gives us a built-in way of setting that time aside, but you can be doing that even in more frequency with your team members, making sure that they understand what is expected of them, because I think it gives us all a sense of ease and understanding of how we should be spending our time. I also was thinking too about that exercise we did in GPS when everyone sort of practiced the conversation. And I think it is a good thing to implement in your day-to-day operations to prepare for these conversations and not just wing it, because you might have some thoughts rolling around in your mind, but if you're not articulating them in a clear way that sort of doesn't hit the wrong notes, it could really take things in a direction you don't want to go. But thinking about who you have as a trusted colleague that you can continue that practice with and say, this is what I'm thinking of saying to the person I manage. did that come across in a way that felt clear? Is there an area where I should change my messaging because they might feel defensive or offended? And then you can work that out before you have those conversations, and it gives you a little bit of calm going into it.
So coaching is really important. Using some of these tools that that give you guidelines is really helpful. One thing also in our aftermarket folder on the GPS Connect page, you can find the SWOT analysis and SMART goals kind of quickie cheat sheet that Millie referenced that she uses with her team to kind of move them through that information. You can also find sample goals, which is used by the state of Ohio. If you manage multiple program managers, especially, I highly recommend you open that because it is so clear what is expected, when it's expected. There's even one thing that Catlin Skufka did. You even see each foundation grant and the deliverable, and that really helps her PMs understand how they are not a separate entity, how funding really is important for them to understand, and the deliverables are essential for everyone in the state. So please go to that and open it up. And then the final piece in this unit is manage results. And that's exactly how you can manage results, which is looking at the data. Someone can tell you, well, I've made 40 calls. Well, that's not a result you can manage. So you have to find a way to manage the outreach, whether that's in a spreadsheet, whether you do that in Salesforce, whether you're pulling Salesforce efforts there. I'm not really sure Millie, would you put a school that's not yet doesn't yet have a chapter into Salesforce or not until they're official?
There's a way to track your prospects in Salesforce, so you can definitely document all the outreach you're doing. But it is a challenge. Sometimes I've seen where people will talk about some of the effort they put in, but we're still not seeing the results that we're looking for. So, and that conversation can really go a variety of different ways depending on that person's mindset. And that's why I think some of the things we talked about early on in this conversation, setting the expectations, talking about the why, getting that buy-in, will lead to easier conversations down the road when you're managing their results. And so you have to know what the results are, like Corey said, digging into the data and seeing where things stand. But, I think it takes some maturity. Everybody needs to understand, okay, well, this is where we wanted to be at this point. If we're not there yet, I think it's also helpful for a manager to, tap into what the challenge is and help brainstorm strategies that might help their staff member find a new way, overcome, and think outside the box. But maybe you're not that person that has a depth of experience in the area that your staff member does. We are very fortunate to work in an organization that has hundreds of employees and departments. And so I think that's a good time to make connections, and maybe even by you making a connection for your staff member with someone that can sort of be a good partner or expert that they can talk to, that goes a long way too. Just showing that you're not just kind of judging them based on a failure. You're actually helping them find a solution because you want them to succeed. So that recognition, we sort of close this unit out talking about ways of recognizing when people are doing well. I think that part is really important. It provides a balance where people feel validated and seen for the good work they're doing, so that when you have to come to them with some honest conversations about where we're falling short, they don't feel like that's all they ever hear. So just keeping that in mind, that we all want to feel valued and recognized for our good work.
Wow. Strong ending. Well, I think that's our little piece on Unit 3. We hope it's been helpful. We know that you guys are really carrying the torch. So thank you so much, everyone out in the field. Please let us know where you're having challenges and what we can address in our next GPS BudCast.
Thanks for tuning in.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.